Hello everyone and welcome to Best Side Cycling. Today I'm going to walk you through how to create, plan, and share bike routes using free online software RideWithGPS and Strava. For RideWithGPS, it's completely free, but you will have to make an account to save the routes and share them. And I'm also going to share a lot of tips today on how to use this effectively so that you can plan a route even in an area that you have never ridden before. So we're here starting out in Seattle. And the first thing you want to do is here on the top right, you want to change the RWGPS map view to the just map. And this is going to make it look like Google Maps. But most importantly, it's going to unlock the bike pass feature, which is basically the Google Maps overlay for bicycling, bike lanes, roads, and whatnot. So here now you have already won half the war, as you have a lot more insight in terms of where the bike lanes are and where is a great place to ride. So we know that this isn't foolproof, but the other tool now you have from Google Maps as well is STREETVIEW. So if you just pick sort of which intersection or area that you don't know about, you can have a really good look. So with this, we can already tell that this Mon Lake Bridge area does not seem like an area that you want to be biking on this road, but in fact, as many cyclists do, we just bike along the sidewalk here to connect through, even though this is a super busy artery. But anyway, aside from that point, we're going to go back out of this view and I'm just going to show you a little bit of how this works. So we're going to click here and start somewhere, and by default what it's going to do is follow the most typical cycling routes. So what that means is that RideWithGPS already has a ton of other people using it, and they have an idea of where cycling people like to create their routes. So it just follows along where it makes best fit. It might not always be accurate, but usually it works pretty good. But then things like this sort of mess it up, where you can see a clear gap, and what you can do is click this draw lines button, and that basically overrides it, and from the last control point, which is here, it creates a line. Then you can change it back onto following roads and you're sort of well on your way. And sometimes it misses too, and you can correct it by changing it like this and dragging it, and that will create an additional control point. So really, if we click even all the way up here, it's just going to follow the trail all the way down. And yeah, you're sort of really close and are really effective in being able to make a route already. But I'm going to show you an additional tool to make this even easier. So the next thing I want to show off was the Strava Global Heatmap. So here, the one thing I made sure to do is filter this to bike only. And this is basically all the cycling data that people upload here onto Strava, which is super popular. So it gives you really a good idea of where people like to ride, and presumably that's basically where people feel safe to ride too. So once you have this over, you can also change the colors and such. I found that either hot and dark work best for me, or gray and light, depending on what I'm looking at and where I'm looking at. So that's just up to you. You can try one of those two, but I'm gonna put it back on the default. And the areas that I think this feature is most helpful for is when you're in those areas that aren't the downtown Seattle, and you're sort of looking for how to connect between places that might not have an immediate obvious option. So for example, if we look at like downtown Seattle, like basically everyone's biking every which way on the road. So I mean, there are some clear winners in terms of the trails, and those are definitely the way to go. But yeah, once we get away from the sort of main cityscape, you sort of see that there's a lot more gaps, and there's like fewer roads that cyclists choose to use. Those are mostly because those are the ones with shoulders. And then for these areas here, like for example, connecting from I-90 to 520, you sort of see a lot of the clear options here. So we're gonna, I guess the way that I like to think about this is that when I'm creating a route, I would sort of just go along here using this, and I can sort of see generally that people like riding here. I would click it along and let's see what happens. And I mean, this seems like another good option too, but I originally wanted that other route. So I'm just gonna shift it back over this way, and it sort of just fixes it. And sorry if that's a little jarring, but like this, just the idea of cross-checking with the global heat map can be really helpful when you're looking on a route. But with that, basically, you can just use these features together and connect your route all the way through. And then I'm gonna go back to where I started. So yeah, you can see that I'm like really putting a lot of trust in the RideWithGPS option, just with the clicking sort of farther in, and just it picks the trails all the way through, which is awesome. And then the last thing I'm going to show off here is that I'm just making sure that I check this area, because I saw before it was sort of weird, right? It had this giant bridge, but I can see that it sort of follows this pretty well. And then I'm going to look at this global heat map too, and I see that there's a ton of people that ride like this as well. So yeah, with that, I think I basically have my ride ready, so I can click save, and then I can click North Lake Washington Loop, and then the tutorial that I just did with all you all, and that's it. I mean, from there you have a full route ready to share with people. You have the stats, you know it's 26.5 miles, 1,200 feet, and you can walk through the exact gradient levels at every point. And I know for this, from a lot of experience, that the main climb at this part is Juanita, and it's basically one of the biggest climbs I've had on the entire Lake Washington loop. So you can have a fun one, and yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please roll over the like button and subscribe. I'm all about just getting more people on bikes, and I think this part of it and the skills I've learned here definitely help that and help me create routes for other people to enjoy. So if you enjoy all that, yeah, hit that bell icon too, so you know when the next video is coming out. And I'll see you all in the next one.